Training Module 1 gave you the basics of SharePoint. Next, you'll learn how to create, edit, and delete pages. There are 3 types of pages in SharePoint: wiki pages, web part pages, and system pages. 2 of them you can edit, 1 you cannot. Let's learn more about these pages.
Previously, we learned that SharePoint team sites have pages that are not changeable and pages that are changeable. Those changeable types of pages, one type is easy to change and the other type, well, not so easy. Now my site has both of these. It has familiar web part pages. SharePoint has had web part pages for a while now. And it has the new default page type, wiki pages. I want to show you some examples of these 2 types of changeable pages. Let's start with the type of page that you've probably seen before, web part pages. My SharePoint 2010 team site has many web part pages. For example, when I click Share Documents, and I can click it here on the page, or I can just go up here to the Quick Launch and click it there. This is an example of a web part page. SharePoint defines a web part page as a page which can display an aggregation of information from other sources. It pulls in data. Web part pages display many types of data. That can be lists, or libraries, or web pages, or search results, or even data retrieved from other servers. Now, web part pages are changeable, but they're not necessarily easy to edit. All the content on my web part page is displayed using something called a web part. And that's true for any web part page. A web part page can have one web part, like this one. It displays just a single library. Or it can have many. Web part pages work well when I want my users to view information on a page, but they don't necessarily need to be making a lot of changes to the way that information is displayed. I can add web parts to a web part page like this one to display a library, or I can display lists or other information, even text and images. Over here in the Quick Launch, I have my calendar and my tasks and my team discussion. These are all examples of web part pages that are built into my SharePoint site. If I click Calendar, for example, this is a web part page, and the calendar is the web part on the page. How about tasks? Again, this is a web part page, and my task list is my web part. One more, team discussion. Again, this is a web part page, and here's my web part. Now let's take a look at some web part pages that I've added to my site. On the campaigns web part page, I have data being pulled into campaign contacts. Here's the web part. And I have data being pulled into this web part, winter documents. And I have 2 more down here. I have campaign staff and campaign presentations. Web part pages are great when I want to display a lot of data, and I can change this page based on how I want this information to be viewed and accessed on this page. Because they're made up of web parts, these pages tend to be boxy. Web part pages were commonly used in team sites in the past, so if your team site is upgraded, then it probably has a lot of web part pages. Now let's talk about wiki pages. SharePoint defines wiki pages as pages that can be easily edited in the web browser. Wiki pages can contain text and images and links. They can also display web parts. Wiki pages are really useful for collaborating on projects because they're so easy to use and edit. Wiki pages, like web part pages, are changeable. Unlike web part pages, they're very easy to change and add content to. Let's look at some more wiki pages on my team site. Again, I'm going to go to the top link bar. Here's a page called Segments. Here's a page called Research. And here's a page called Sales Support. These are all examples of wiki pages that I've created and added to my team site. Let's start with Segments. So this page has some pretty pictures in it, and it has a nice green heading, and it has some columns and bullets. It even has a link in the page down here. This is a good example of a wiki page. Let's look at another one. Let's go to Research. Now this page has lots of text. It has an image too. It has some headings, and it has links in the text up here. This is a good example of a wiki page. Let's look at one more, Sales Support. Now this page again has text and headings and bulleted lists. It also has a work in progress, a table with some information in it, and it has a document in the page right here. This is a good example of a wiki page. These are all pages that I've made. Wiki pages are very easy to create, and they're easy to change. And SharePoint 2010 team sites are likely to have many wiki pages. In a SharePoint team site, I'll frequently encounter a type of page that I cannot change. For example, all site content is a page that I cannot change. I call these system pages. System pages provide me with tools for working in my SharePoint site, but they're not changeable pages. Let's look at a few more examples. From the quick launch, I can go to all site content, as we just saw, or I can go to the recycle bin. The recycle bin is also a system page. I can do things here, but I cannot edit this page. In the Site Actions menu, I'll find quite a few system pages as well. For example, all site content is here, again, or I can go to Site Permissions and I can change how people access my site. Or I can go to Site Settings. Site Settings is another system page, and it's one that I'll use frequently. Anytime I want to change or delete site information or work with various settings for my site, but I cannot edit this page. I cannot add a column, put in a few links, change the page title, and so on. One more example. If I click these category headings, lists, or libraries, or discussions, these two are system pages. As a SharePoint user, I come across these pages all the time. They help me work with information in my site. In SharePoint, a system page is a page that cannot be changed using the browser. System pages provide information and tools for working in the site, but these pages aren't editable. I cannot change these pages.
In the video, you saw there are 3 types of pages found on a collaboration site. Of those, wiki and web part pages can be edited. System pages cannot. Though wiki pages are easier to edit, it's important to note that the Battalion's collaboration sites were originally created in an earlier version of SharePoint. Because of this, all of your home pages were created as web part pages by default and cannot be changed to wiki pages. In SharePoint, when you want to do anything to your site, whether it's creating a new page, adding a list or a library, or just change the color scheme, it all begins with the Site Actions menu. Let's look at it in more detail. The Site Actions drop-down menu includes links to Edit Page, New Document Library, New Site, More Options, View All Site Content, Edit in SharePoint Designer, Site Permissions, and Site Settings. Let's look at these in more detail. Edit Page allows you to edit the page you are on, whether it's a web part page or a wiki page. New Page allows you to create additional wiki pages that you customize. This link automatically stores a wiki page in the Site Pages library. New Document Library allows you to create a place to store and share documents. Note, there are other types of libraries that can also be created, but only a document library is created from this link. New Site allows you to create a sub-site under your home page with full functionality and unique permissions. The More Options link goes to a page that displays all templates available in SharePoint and allows you to create lists, libraries, wiki or web part pages, and subsites. View All Site Content allows a user to easily view everything that's included on a site. Edit in SharePoint Designer is an enhanced design functionality and is not available to Battalion site owners. Site Permissions allows you to give people access to your site. This will be covered in detail in Module 5. Site Settings allows you to access and change all settings and functionality for your site. Now, let's create a new page for your collaboration site. If you know you want to create a wiki page, use the New Page link in the Site Actions menu. If you want to create a web part page, use the More Options link. Note, you can also create a wiki page from the More Options link. So in this demonstration, we will use the More Options link. When you select More Options in the Site Actions menu, the next screen provides access to all SharePoint templates. You will use this page often in order to create lists, libraries, pages, and subsites. So let's learn more about this template page. Since there are more than 40 templates, though they are listed alphabetically and appear in the center of the page, it may be hard to find the appropriate one. Because of this, SharePoint has the option to filter the templates and view them by category. To view templates by category, under Filter By, select either Library, List, Page, or Site, and only templates for that item will appear. In this example, we've selected the Library link. You can see that there are 8 library templates. To determine which template to use, click on a template and a description of it appears on the right. You can see that the Asset Library is intended to share, browse, and manage rich media assets like images, audio, and video files. These descriptions will help you determine the template that best serves your purpose. So let's create a page using a template. Under Filter By, select Page. There are only two templates, one for a wiki page and one for a web part page. Note the wiki page template is simply called Page. If you want to create a wiki page, select the page template, give it a name, and click Create. It will automatically be stored in your site pages library. Once you create a wiki page, it is found by navigating to your site pages library. To do this, click on the All Site Content link at the bottom of your quick launch, then on the next screen, click on the Site Pages library and a list of all your wiki pages will appear. Note, since some users may not know how to find the Site Pages library, if you have site pages you want other users to see, it's best to put the Site Pages library in the quick launch area. Let's see how to do that. Select the Site Settings link at the bottom of the Site Actions menu. On the next screen, under Site Administration, click on Site Libraries and Lists. Click on the Customize Site Pages link, and then on the following screen, under the Site Settings, click on the Title, Description, and Navigation link. You can now change the name and description of the library and choose to have it display in the quick launch. Select Yes and click OK, and you will see that your Site Pages library is now in the quick launch area. Now let's see how to create a web part page. In the Site Actions menu, click on the More Options link. Remember, the New Page link only allows you to create a wiki page. On the Create screen, under Filter By, select Page. Then select the Web Part Page template and click Create. On this screen, you will name the page, choose a layout template, and choose which library will store the page. Notice that when you select a layout template, a sample of how the web parts will be displayed is shown on the left. Once you make your selections, click on Create and your new web part page will be displayed and ready for you to add content to the web parts. Note, all pages of a collaboration site, except the home page, are stored in libraries. Unlike wiki pages that are stored in the Site Pages library, web part pages are saved in the Site Assets library by default, but can be stored in any other library on your site. To help users find your web part pages more easily, put them in your Site Pages library along with your wiki pages. Now that you know how to create pages, let's see how you add and edit content on them. First, let's see how you add and edit content on a wiki page.
To get started, all I need to do is click Edit. Just like that, and now I can just start changing the information in my page. I can tell it's in edit mode because these little blue boxes around my content, and also because the Save and Close button is now appearing at the top. So let's get started. I'm going to start by putting a heading on the page. So up here where it says Welcome to your site, I'm going to select that text and I'm going to press Delete on my keyboard, and then I'm going to type in Contoso Marketing instead. And then I want to add some text down here, so I'm just going to select that and I'm going to delete that, and then I'm going to paste in some text that I've copied from another place. And this provides a little bit of information about my site so that when visitors come here they can see what it's about. Just like Microsoft Word, I have a formatting menu right up here, so I can easily just select my text and make some formatting changes. For example, I want to make this text a little bit bigger, so I'll go up here and select 10 point, and I'm going to go to the color picker and I'm going to make it black instead of gray. And then I want to make this heading kind of a reddish color, a darker red. That would be good. And that'll match an image that I'm going to put up later. And that needs to be a little bigger too. I'm going to say 24 point maybe. That looks pretty good. Maybe it needs to be bold. No, I don't like bold. I'm going to take that back out. That looks good. Keyboard shortcuts also work in here. So if I went in here and I typed something like, I don't know, company, and then I made a mistake, I could just go up here and click undo, and it takes away the mistake. Or I can click on the arrow and get a selection that includes redo, and I can add it back in. This also is available as a keyboard shortcut. If I press Control-Z on my keyboard, that does an undo as well. Another handy button up here on the editing ribbon is something called the text layout button over here. And if I click that, I have some options for working with my page. I'm currently looking at a 2-column view. Right now, the content of my page is organized into 2 columns. But I could choose 1 column with sidebar, or 1 column, or 3 columns. And when I click any of these options, it's going to rearrange the text, but it's not going to delete anything. I'll show you. There's 3 columns. And it just added another column over here, but it didn't get rid of any of my content. I'm always safe to use that button. No matter what I click, it's just going to move things around. It's not going to get rid of anything. 2 columns is actually what I want for now. So I'm going to go back to the 2-column layout, and that looks good. This is definitely a benefit of the fast editing wiki page. By the way, if I was working in a web part page instead of a wiki page, which I will do later in this course, I'd actually find myself stuck with the existing layout. So wiki pages are far more adaptable with regard to page layout. Before I get too far along, I want to stop and save my work just really quickly. And I can just go right up here to the Edit and Save button. I can click that. That saves my page, and then I can just start again by clicking Edit, and it's just really fast. Another option I have here is this Save and Close tool on the Edit ribbon, and that offers me some drop-down options, including Save and Keep Editing. If I click that one, it saves my work, but I don't have to exit edit mode, so that's fast as well. Again, these Save and Close features are something you're just going to find on wiki pages only. They're fast and make editing much easier. Next, I want to put some new information on the right column, and to do that, I'm going to first delete this picture. I'm just going to point to the picture and select it, and when it's selected, I'm going to press Delete on my keyboard, and now the picture's gone. It's still in my Sharepoint site, but it's not on this page anymore. And I'm going to go to Insert on my Edit ribbon, and I'm going to click on Picture, and I'm going here to Browse, and I'm going to select something called Contoso Marketing, and open that, and yes, I want to put it inside Assets. That's fine for now. And I can give it a title if I want to. I don't really care about that. I'm going to click Save. And now it's on my page. It's that simple. One nice feature about wiki pages is I can just resize the image here. I can drag it. I can make it smaller or bigger, like that. I think I want it a little bit smaller. No, this is the home page. Maybe not. I can go back to Undo, and I can undo whatever I just did. Go back to the original size there, or get rid of it altogether. Whoops, redo. Okay, that looks pretty good like that. Next, I'm ready to add some text over here in the right-hand column. So I'm going to put my cursor where I want it, and I'm just going to paste in by clicking Paste some content from another source. And I'm going to make this into a heading and just make that bold and a little bit bigger. And I want the rest of this to be 10 point. And you just work with it until you get things looking the way you want them to look. This is going to be another heading here. What's new? I'm going to make that bold and 12 point. And then I want this to be a list. So I'm going to highlight those words, and I'm going to click on Bullet. And I just need to put in line breaks for each to get a bullet to appear for each of these items. And there's an extra break there. I'll take that out. Same thing down here. I'm going to put in a space, make these into bullets, and make sure I return that. Make another bullet. Take out the extra space now. And I want the whole thing to be black, so I'll select it all. And I'll go up here back to my color picker, and I'll choose black. And this is looking kind of big. Let's see, 12, and this is looking, that's good. I think this one is the one that's not right. I'm going to select that and make that 12. You just need to sort of play with it until everything looks the way you want it to look. And then it's also a good idea to save your work and take a quick peek at it in saved mode. Sometimes it'll move around a little bit. That looks really good. Okay, so I can go back to Edit and edit some more. Because this is a web page, I want to add some hyperlinks to information either to other pages in my site or elsewhere on the internet. And the easiest way to do that is simply go into the text and type it. So I'm going to say visit contoso.com, and it makes it into a link that quickly and easily. I'm also able to select some text and go up here to the Insert menu and click on Link. And that lets me put in text to display, for example, speed, and then an address that could be separate. And I can put in contoso.com here and then speed, but I also need to put in the HTTP part of the address, otherwise it won't work. And I'm going to click OK, and that just makes that into a link as well. One final thing to show you is that I can select the text, and I can use Control-K because keyboard shortcuts work too. And it brings up that same Insert Hyperlink dialog, and I can put in another link. www.contoso.com, security, and click OK. And now I have 3 links on my page. It's that easy. As you've seen, it's really easy to go up here to the Insert menu and insert all kinds of things without actually having to even put a web part on the page. Although I can insert web parts, even though this is a wiki page, I can certainly do that. And you'll see down here, I already have a web part displayed on this page. I have my Shared Documents library open on the page. I don't have anything in the library yet, but this is the web part displaying here. So the next thing I want to do is add some documents to my library. One thing to note is when I click Share Documents to go to that library, it's going to ask me if I want to save my page. And I can just read this message and I can click OK, and it saves my page before taking me to the library. I've added some documents here, and now my page is really filled up with this library, so I might want to think about how I'm displaying this library on the page, and maybe I don't want it to take up so much room. I have some options here. I can click on this little arrow, and I can choose Delete and just remove shared documents from this page. Okay, it doesn't actually delete shared documents, it just removes it from this page. Or I can click Minimize, and Minimize just sort of streamlines it. I still can see that shared documents is here on the page, but this takes up a lot less room, and it looks kind of nice. Just depends what I want to do with it. Editing pages is really about what do I want this particular page to look like. I think actually in this case I want my users to see these documents, so I'm going to open it back up by clicking Restore. And now it's displayed again. So my page is nearly complete here. In fact, the last thing I want to do is go down to these Get Started links in the lower part of the right-hand side of the page and consider whether I want to keep those or get rid of those. I'm going to scroll down. These are just links for working with my site. I could go ahead and do these things. These aren't really related to page editing, so I'm just going to take this out. And I have a little trick for doing that. I'm going to click a link. And when I do that, something called Table Tools appears up here because these links are actually in a table. These are links and pictures inside of a table. I'm going to go up here to Table Tools, and I'm going to click Layout. And I'm going to go here to where it says Delete, and I'm going to click Delete Table. And now my table's gone. And the heading's still here. I can just highlight that and press the delete key on my keyboard, and now that's gone too. My page is pretty close to done. I'm going to save it. Really quick up here, click Save and Close. Take a look. It looks good. One final little tip. When I'm in edit mode, and I'll click Edit to start. If I make some sort of big mistake, like I don't know, delete content or type in something that's wrong, and I don't immediately click the undo tool, or for some reason I'm not using that tool, I can also go over here to Save and Close, and I can click Stop Editing. And it gives me the option of saving the changes or not. And if I click No, it just goes back to the last save version. As we know, I just saved it the way I wanted it a moment ago, so I'm going to click No. And it takes me out of edit mode, and it takes me back to the last saved version, and that looks really good.
Now that you've learned how to edit a wiki page, let's talk about web part pages. Though your collaboration site, i.e. your homepage, was created as a web part page and cannot be changed to a wiki page, any new subsite that you create under your collaboration site can have a wiki homepage by using the Team Site template. This will be covered in detail in Module 4. Since individual web parts can also be included on wiki pages, let's see how you edit web parts no matter what type of page they are on.
I can see here that this is a web part page right away because, well, there's no edit button up here at the top. But if I go to Site Actions, there's an edit page option. So, sure enough, this is a web part page. Let's talk about how to edit this home page. To start editing, all I need to do is go to Site Actions and click Edit Page. And now I'm in edit mode, and I can tell because of these blue lines that are appearing on both sides of my page. Sound familiar? Now, you can see what I mean when I say that in a web part page, I'm going to have to work with web parts in order to do anything on this page. Everything on this page is a web part. And even though I'm in edit mode, I can't just click somewhere and start typing. For example, if I put my cursor down here after finish, well, I can type, but nothing happens. And if I select this text and then I press delete on my keyboard, well, nothing happens there either. It doesn't matter where I am on this page. Anywhere on a web part page, I get the same experience. Changing what appears in the web part itself, for example, the announcements list, requires that I work with that item, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm concerned with what's displaying on this page. Editing a web part page, that is, deciding what and how things are displayed on this page, is all about working with the web parts. I basically have 3 ways that I can edit a web part page. First, I can add a web part, and I have a couple of buttons here that say exactly that, add a web part. Second, I can move a web part around on the page somewhere from one spot to another, though I can't really change the layout. Moving a web part around the page is really easy to do. The third way I can work with a web part is to change how it's displayed on the page. For example, announcements. This is a little bit more complicated because there's a lot of options here on how I display this. So let's start with the obvious one, the easy one, how to add a web part. Adding a web part is one way that I can edit this page. And when I'm in edit mode, these Add a Web Part buttons appear on my page. On this page, I have 2 zones. I have a left zone and I have a right zone. and I have Add a Web Part buttons in each. I'm kind of resigned to the layout that I have, so I'm going to work with that. And when I click this button, Add a Web Part, and it doesn't matter which button I click here, either one will do. That opens up something called the Web Part Picker. This lets me pick the web part that I want to add to my page. Now, I want to pick tasks, and that happens to be in the List and Libraries category, and it's called Tasks. I'm going to click that or pick it. And then over here, I have the option of putting it in the right zone or the left zone, which is why I said it didn't matter which one I clicked. And I want it to be in the right, so that's fine. And then I'm going to click Add. Now this web part's been added to the right zone on my page. It's pretty easy to put this web part on my page, but it isn't perfect yet. Remember, adding a web part is just one way to change or edit this page. I can also move a web part, and I can change how it's displayed on the page, and I'll do that shortly. Another way to edit my page is to simply move the web parts around. So I'm going to scroll to the right and scroll down a little bit. And I just want to move tasks down below the image. So I'm going to click it, and when I do, I get this little blue box, and I'm just going to drag it down and drop it in right below the image, like that, and there it is. Now, it's pretty easy to just basically drag any web part from one spot to another available spot on the page. For example, I could do that with calendar as well. Just click it, and then I get those lines, and I just put it where I want it. You get the idea. That's pretty straightforward. In addition to moving or adding a web part, I can also change how web part is displayed on the page. In the upper right-hand corner of my web part, for example, tasks, I have this little down arrow. And that's true for pretty much every web part on the page. Yep. Okay. And if I go back to this arrow and I click that, this gives me some options for deciding how to display my web part on the page. For example, I can minimize it, or I could close or delete it. I can also edit my web part, which offers me a bunch more options, and I can add connections to other information on the page. Let's start with something easy. Let's minimize or close or delete this web part. This task list is taking up a lot of room. So I'm going to point to that down arrow, I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to choose Minimize. And when I do that, it minimizes the task list web part on the page. This just streamlines my task list, so it's still here, but it's taking up a lot less room, and that can be very helpful. Another option I have in this down arrow list is I can click Close or delete the web part. These two options would remove the task list from my page, but it wouldn't get rid of it altogether. It still exists in my site. For example, if I go over here to the Quick Launch and I click on Tasks, I can go there and work in the task list. But I need to decide whether or not I want this to appear on my page and how I want it to appear on this page. One more option I have in this drop-down list is something called Edit Web Part. Again, I have this for every web part on the page. There it is for my image viewer, and there it is for my announcements, and there it is for calendar. And an interesting thing about this is I can actually go to Page and stop editing. Now I'm no longer in edit mode, but I can still go here and click on Edit Web Part. And when I click this, whether I'm in edit mode or not, it doesn't matter. That opens up this pane over here on the right, which gives me all these other options I can use for editing that particular web part. Not the page, just the web part. This applies only for the web part I just clicked. So this is the Tasks Properties pane for this particular web part, which is also called Tasks. Now this pane lets me work with individual options or properties, which means I have a lot of options for deciding how I want to display my information on my page. For example, I could change this title to say something besides tasks. I could change this blue bar so it's not even showing here. I could even change these drop-down options. Let me show you some common examples of things that I might want to change using the Properties pane. First, I want to go to this drop-down option and click Restore so that I can see all the individual items in my list. And now my task list is displayed on the page again. And then I'll go up here to where it says Selected View, and instead of all tasks, I'm going to choose something else. Now, Task List is nice because it comes with all these default sort of built-in options for displaying my view. And if I'd created a custom view, that would be listed here as well. So I'm just going to go to Do Today, and I'm going to select that. And it tells me that that might create some problems with my connections, but I don't have any connections right now, so that's fine. I'm going to ignore that. Click OK. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click Apply or OK. Apply makes my changes. I'm going to click that. And now I'm just looking at the tasks that are due today. I can click OK, or I can just go up here and just close this Properties pane. And here's my page, and now my web part is displaying just those tasks which are due today. And that looks great. I want to make a few more changes to the way that my tasks list appears on this page. So I'm not currently in edit mode, but it doesn't really matter because I can just go here and I can click Edit Web Part. And that puts the whole page into edit mode, which is fine. I'm just going to work with the Properties pane for that individual web part. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click Appearance, and I'm going to change the title instead of Tasks to say Today's Task, like that. And then under the width, I want a fixed width instead of automatically adjusting. I want it to be 300 pixels. And that looks good. So I'm going to go down here and click Apply so that I can see those changes. And I'll click Apply. And now it's a fixed width. It's quite a bit smaller, and I have this scroll bar, which is fine. And also it now says Today's Task. So that looks really good. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm going to click OK. And that removes the edit pane. And there's my page. There's my task list. And now this scroll bar I can just move back and forth if I want to see it. I have a lot of options here, but this is how I want this for now. So that looks great. I'm done for now. I've just touched the tip of the iceberg for things I can do when I'm editing a web part page. Let's review. First of all, working with web part pages is all about the web parts. To edit this page, I simply go to the Site Actions menu and click Edit Page. And now I'm in edit mode, and sometimes I want to be in edit mode when I want to add a web part or move a web part around the page. But there's no editing tools up here. There's no way to save my page. If I want to stop editing, I just click somewhere else in my site. Or to be sure, I can go up here to the Page tab and click that and stop editing. Now, just because I'm not in edit mode doesn't mean I can't work with the web parts on this page. In edit mode or out of edit mode, I can easily point to any of the drop-down options for that web part, and I have some options. And when I click Edit Web Part, that opens up this Properties pane on the right side of my screen for that web part. And that lets me work with a lot of details. For example, I can change the view, or I can change the title that appears here on the page. But changing things over here in the Properties pane doesn't get rid of that particular item. My announcement list doesn't go away. My calendar doesn't go away. I just change how it's viewed on the page here. And I can easily apply and click OK, or just close this to be done with it.
You may be asking yourself, how do I know which type of page to create, a wiki page or a web part page? Basically, wiki pages are easier to edit and allow for more freedom in the design. Web part pages are intended to display many different lists, libraries, and other content types on a page but are boxy in appearance. But the biggest difference is that a web part page does not display the quick launch bar. And since a web part can be displayed on a wiki page, generally speaking, creating wiki pages is your best choice. Now that you know how to create and edit pages, let's learn how to delete them. In the Site Actions menu, or at the bottom of the Quick Launch area, select View All Site Content. On the next screen, click on Site Pages. Check the box by the page you want to delete, and then click on the Delete Document link in the ribbon bar above. Click OK on the pop-up to delete the page, or click Cancel to keep it. Now that you know how to create, edit, and delete wiki and web part pages, let's talk about system pages. Earlier, you learned that system pages cannot be changed, but provide the links to all functionality available on your site. The two system pages that you need to become very familiar with are the Site Settings page and the View All Content page. Let's look at them in more detail. As you learned earlier, you access the All Site Content page through the Site Actions menu or by using the link found at the bottom of the Quick Launch area. You access the Site Settings page through the Site Actions menu. As you can see, there are many links on both of these pages. As a site owner, you should become familiar with these links. Let's discuss the ones you'll use most often. We'll start with the All Site Content page. The All Site Content page is where you can view and access all the content on your collaboration site. For example, in Area 1, you can access any of your libraries. This includes the wiki site pages you created that were automatically placed into the Site Pages library. In Area 2, you can access all the lists included in your site to include lists that you chose not to show in your Quick Launch area. The All Site Content page allows anyone visiting your site to quickly find any list, library, or page in your site collection. Now let's look at the Site Settings page. The Site Settings page is where you access the functionality of your collaboration site to make changes. The links you should be concerned with are 1. The people and groups and site permissions links found in the Users and Permissions section. These will be explained in detail in Module 5. 2. All the links in the Look and Feel section, which allows you to change the appearance of your collaboration site. 3. The Site Libraries and Lists link found under the Site Administration section, which allows you to set versioning, grant permissions, delete libraries and lists, and set other advanced parameters. These links will be explained in detail in Module 3. And 4. The Delete This Site link found under the Site Actions section allows you to delete your homepage or any subsite you create under your homepage. Caution: do not under any circumstance delete your parent site, i.e. homepage. If you do, you will have to recreate a completely new homepage, all previous lists and libraries, all previous site pages, and all subsites you created beneath the homepage. You will also have to re-upload and recreate the documents that were part of your list and libraries. Generally, you should only use the Delete This Site link to remove any unwanted subsites you may have created. As a site owner, you need to understand the ins and outs of wiki and web part pages. Use these links to learn more. For your convenience, a summary of each training module with links to additional online training and a quick reference guide can be found on the Battalion's collaboration homepage in the Quick Launch area.